When I reflect on my previous week, one of the biggest things that I've been coming to realize, I guess more so re realize, is how important and how not that great I am at boundaries. I think I started to notice this whenever I would either visit friends and family or the opposite. Typically, when I'm by myself, what ends up happening is that I tend to form a routine, a schedule. And for the people that really know me, they've probably all seen my schedule. I have something accounted for pretty much every part of the day. And I tend to stick pretty close to it. Whenever either I'm at some friends or family's places or the opposite happens, what ends up happening is that I will abandon that schedule. Sometimes it's not immediate, but so far, almost always, it has eventually happened. When it happens repeatedly, as in over the course of multiple days and multiple weeks, I always find myself getting to a point of mild depression, almost as if I don't have any control or authority over my own life. And what typically happens is that the things that I work on, for example, like this channel, this vlog, or even this video right here, eventually the things that I work on will get pushed to the side and feel less important. I think it's interesting that I'm starting to really reflect on this pattern more nowadays. But I think it's because as time goes on, I am beginning to feel as if time is more scarce. And the thing is, it's not as if I never thought that. I think that to an extent, I have always thought that. That's why I've grown to be a person that has developed a such a rigid schedule and such a mentality of needing to follow that kind of schedule, or at least the sense of valuing time. I think the concept of not having boundaries for myself and always succumbing to the pressure of friends and family, I think that comes from, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to point fingers or blaming anything, but I do think that there's an aspect of it that comes from how, as I was growing up, the things that I personally wanted to do were never really supported. I always had to give up what I wanted, not only the things that I wanted to do, but my things in general. I always had to give them up for the sake of something else that was deemed more important by friends or family or a collective group. I do understand the importance of that in the sense of sacrifice. I don't think I have an issue with that concept. If there's a greater goal at hand, to sacrifice for that mission and that objective for, let's say, a collective group, I think that is honorable in its own way. But I think that when it comes to each of our individual lives, and in this case, especially my own, I think the fact that I abandon my own goals for the sake of family and friends, I think that that's not good. Because at the end of the day, your friends and family, They want to see you succeed. They want to see you chase after your own goals and to achieve whatever it is that you set out to achieve. And even bigger than that, they want to see that you are happy. I think my typical response I think whenever I come face to face with feeling that weight of giving up myself for others too much. In other words, whenever I feel that I myself am allowing my boundaries to be breached repeatedly, I feel like I have a tendency to want to separate from that. I feel like I have a tendency to want to get away and start anew in a situation where like no one knows me or it's really hard to reach me. Because when I'm in that situation, at least I have the time to focus on things that I want to do. And at least when I'm in that situation, I have the time and space to develop something. And anyone that wants to do anything with me at that point, it would take a significantly large amount of energy in order to make that happen. So one thing that actually came up for me recently, or something that I realized, was that I guess one solution that I feel like I had developed or came to when I realized that I had this tendency to give in to my family and my friends was the idea of potentially getting a pet. So think about it this way. Like I have a tendency to give my all to something or to someone or to people. And I figured if I had a pet, then I would want to give my all in terms of responsibility to that pet. And in that case, wouldn't that be a big enough reason for me to say no to friends and family? Logically, I think yes, it does. And over time, what I've realized is that's honestly just me escaping responsibility again. What really needs to happen is that I need to overcome this concept of boundaries by becoming a stronger person first and foremost around that subject, to give not only respect to myself and what I want, because whatever it was in the past, whatever the situations it was in the past, those are no longer the circumstances of today. I just continue to live as if they are. The situation of today is that I can make the choice. I can make the decision, and I can choose to say no. Still, the concept is, remember, a weak point of mine. So it's not something that I'm just easily able to just start working on. It's something that it's just in my character currently. And it wasn't until I actually talked with Clara recently and I told her about this. And what I talked to her about was the concept of how a pet isn't really the answer to solving that. Rather, it's a situation that I need to solve first within myself. And then the benefit will then extend to the pet. The quality of life for even a creature living with you will be infinitely better if you not only are able to respect your own boundaries, but in that case, you would be able to vouch for and protect, I guess, a pet's boundaries. And as a side note, before I go into that realm of, I guess, the rest of what I talked with Clara about, a realization that I also had about the concept of boundaries is that if I am able to give respect and space to my own boundaries, then what that would do for me mentally and emotionally is to be able to give space and respect to other people's boundaries as well. I feel like it was always easy to think about. Not even easy, I guess. I feel like it was always easier to conceptualize the concept of what those boundaries meant for me. But I think that I never flipped that script and wondered what that boundary was for other people, or what it meant to be respectful and to give space to other people's boundaries. So even in the short, let's just say, week and a half that I've been consciously practicing this idea of boundaries for myself, I can actually feel an evolution happening within myself of being okay with other people's need for, let's say, space. And I guess to add some clarity to that, if somebody was feeling something, let's just say negative or sad or upset, there would be a part of me that would really want to know why. The thing is, not everybody is ready to talk about that, nor does everybody want to. And in my head, most of the time, if I wasn't really that close with you, that'd be totally okay. I just write it off as cool, not my problem. I'm just going to move on. But for people that were closer to me, even if I were to give respect to their space or their needs, there would be a part of me that's like, I want to help though. And the thing is, my wanting to help, my want to have, I guess, any kind of effect on somebody else's well being is an act of me not respecting a boundary. As well intentioned of a space or perspective that I could be coming from, the extension of that into someone else's life could be an act of overstepping their boundary. I'll pause on that particular direction and I'll come back to the story that Clara had told me. And again, this was when I had talked to her about the realization that getting a pet is not the answer. Rather, working on ourselves or working on me, working on myself is the answer prior to having a pet. Clara told me a story about someone named Bart Kwan from JK News. And she told me that he's kind of notorious amongst their friends as being the guy that's A, really strict with his schedule, and B, also so strict and so on top of his schedule that if he were to have friends over, let's say at a hangout, and it hits his time to sleep, then at that time to sleep, he will just turn off the lights on everybody, even while everyone is sitting on the couch and still talking and having a good time. And when she told me that story, I started cracking up like crazy because there's an aspect of me that really respects that mentality, really respects that story. And when I thought about that whole situation, him being notorious for doing that and his friends all know that he is like that, they don't hate him for it. They're still friends with him. It's just they understand that that is how he is and they're cool with that. And to me, that's also a sign of real friendship. The fact that they can respect his boundaries in that way and be cool with it. In fact, probably are more supportive of him because of that. I realized that for myself, those are also the kinds of friends and families that I will need as well. There are boundaries that I need to have within my own life in order to create and do the things that I want to do. It's important then that I stick to it. It's important then that I hold strongly to those boundaries, to identify what they are, to openly communicate what they are. And if there are people that don't respect that, and if there are people that fight against that, then are they really rooting for you? Are they really rooting for you to succeed or achieve what it is that you want to achieve to begin with? It's crazy because I think about how much I need this particular type of discipline in my own life. And sometimes, I guess a lot of times when I reflect on that, I am also remembering how many times I may have come off to others as not being respectful or supportive of their own boundaries and their own goals. I mean, I don't think that this video will really reach anyone that I may have been like that towards in my past, but I do feel sorry. And I feel like the best way to grow from that is to be stronger about that within myself. By respecting my own boundaries, I am also learning to respect the boundaries of others. And furthermore, the existence and importance of them just existing. Anyway, I think that's probably good for this video. If you stuck around and are listening to me blab on, I really do appreciate that. And I don't know, let me know what your thoughts are. Without further ado, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and peace out.